Welcome to our YouTube channel, One Race, Human Race, All Human. Today is Monday, July 12th, 2021. Michael Dukakis lost that race partly because of the racist Willie Horton ad. Okay, it was racist. And the Republicans know how to use racism in order to get white people to vote against their economic interests. That's what it's all about. We need fusion coalitions bringing all people together, black, white, Asian, Native American, everybody. There's one race, a human race. And vote economics, not skin.
But I go back to my first presidential campaign, 1988. Michael Dukakis leads his convention 17 points ahead. He loses 40 states. I lost him in part because the George H.W. Bush campaign ran crime ads in the suburbs. Yeah. Willie Horton ads in the American suburbs. If you go back to Joe Biden, look at 2020 versus 2016. Joe Biden is president and Nancy Pelosi is speaker because of the Democratic Party's growth in the suburbs under Donald Trump. You see how well he did compared to Hillary Clinton just 4 years before him. But the ABC News Washington Post poll last week, approve of the president's handling of crime, 38%. Disapprove, 48%. If you are president, and if you're the Democratic Party, going into a midterm election, which is usually about the president's approval rating and what people think of the president, that is a flashing red light.
All right, so defund the police does not mean defunding the police itself. It means that refunding in areas of social programs. So the police are not the ministers and rabbis and imams and psychologists and sociologists and social workers that they can do their job. You must alleviate the cause of crime, okay? The cause of crime. That's what defund the police means, okay? And also making sure that people of color are treated just like white Americans. Everybody's treated equally.
Some pretty worrisome numbers, and there are a lot of layers to this problem for Biden right now. Yet Democrats will acknowledge that the defund the police message did hurt them in the suburbs in last year's elections. The problem with those crime rates, though, is that the crime rates are not rising in places that have defunded the police. New York City, in fact, has really strict gun laws, and yet they are having this outbreak of gun violence. So there's this disconnect that's happening between some of the policies that are in place, some of the rhetoric around the policies, and then the actions that we're seeing on the ground right now. And that's the puzzle that they have to figure out, because until that crime rate starts to come down, the actual crime rate, not just the messaging, the solutions around this, that he's going to still run into this problem.
Yeah, I think you can dispute, you can have a variety of discussions about why is the crime rate higher. Is it because of declining police funding? I don't know. It's, pretty soon to say that. Maybe it's because there was a pandemic and a bunch of people lost their jobs and got really scared and drove each other crazy living in small apartments together. Okay. It doesn't matter if there is a high crime rate. People are living in areas where they feel unsafe, where it makes economic comeback difficult. People are worried about the safety of their children and their families. The party in charge is where the buck stops. And so the Democratic Party, and particularly President Biden, understands that. But this comes at a time when all of the debates around last year, not the pandemic debate, but the George Floyd Black Lives Matter debate, that's still real also. In the Democratic Party, there's an absolute rift between people who say, getting a hold of crime and law enforcement is a basic function of government, and people who say, okay, but the system's unfair, and people of color, their lives are in danger from the very people who are supposed to be protecting them. So that debate doesn't go away.
And to Julie's point earlier, the defund the police.
Let me make this point that the Democrats are just barely in control of Congress, right? They have, 50 Democratic senators, 50 Republican senators, and we happen to have a Democratic vice president, right? Therefore, she decides the final vote. However, you have the filibuster, right? Which says you need 60 senators in order to pass a bill. Well, that's an unfair law. It's not in the Constitution, right? Filibuster. In fact, the Constitution has a built-in filibuster where you have these little small states have the same power as what? The big states. They all have 2 senators. It's a built-in filibuster. And in the House, it's Democrats only are the majority on I think it's 4 seats.
Police debate really did concern and affect Democrats in House races in particular, and there's concern about that from the Democratic side, that happening as they try to keep control of their narrow majority in the House. And also, look at where we are right now in Congress. They're trying to get a major policing overhaul bill through. They need to get a deal with Republicans to do that. They're having a hard time getting to that final place where they can get something through among the small group of negotiators, much less selling it to the broader constituencies in the House and the Senate. in one part because of the rising crime rates and concerns, particularly among Republicans, about doing anything that could be looked at as going after the police, potentially taking away a key election year message for the Republicans as well. So all this is happening could impact a key legislative priority of both parties, but particularly this White House, police reform at this point because of
A key message for the Democrats should be that we need to register all guns, all rifles, ammunition, everything, because what? It protects the police. It protects the police. Remind the people what happened on January 6, 2021, right? Where a Capitol Police officer lost his life. Why? Because of lawless insurrectionists, Trump supporters, all right? And who voted, and the Republicans voted not to have a January 6th commission to look into what happened, why it happened, all right? Who's behind it? So you have to make the message pro-police, whichever one is, okay? We're just not in favor of, police, those police, bad police who beat people up and that kind of stuff and murder people, without unjustifiably. So the point is that you need to say, hey, let's have laws that where we know where all the guns are in America, that they're all registered, so we can, and rifles, so we can protect our police and they can do their work. Also, we need to fund social programs so police officers are not ministers and rabbis and imams and social workers, etc., psychologists, sociologists, everything else, so they can do their job.
we're seeing in the cities.
Right. And the White House saying, take that COVID money, use it for your city budget.
Yeah.
Use it to boost, tells me everything I need to know that they understand.
Yeah, and here's a memo, and let me give it to you right before Eric Adams shows up,
Right, let's-
with a headline that says
Right.
how you can use Joe Biden's money.
They understand the powerful politics of what is a legitimate. Sometimes we, forget it's a serious policy challenge, but they get the politics of it as well. Up next for us, shifting pages, a foreign policy challenge, very
And
close
in
to.
addition, they need to what? Have more Biden bucks, right? All right, more stimulus money to the American people. All right, it's to help them to survive. Thank you for being on my YouTube channel, One Race, Human Race, All Human. Today, again, is Monday, July 12th, 2021. There's one race, a human race, and everyone on this planet known as Earth has a right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness.